La 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 la. I may have to turn this up. Let me know if you can hear anything at all. I'm gonna work on figuring out the volume here. Okay. So the camera mic is not working for some reason. I am going to get a turn the gain up on this mic a little bit because I'm having to hold it right next to my face. All right, how's that? Let me put it on the table. Hello. Wow, okay, the gain is all the way up. I think, well, that's as high as the gain goes, so hopefully that's going to work. All right, folks. A little bit delayed, but welcome. Oh, hold on. Oh, it's me. I had the phone on and my stream on. I had the stream on my phone in my pocket. So we have a microphone now. All right, good. Echoey a bit. That may be an unavoidable consequence of this ancient microphone, unfortunately. Anyway, welcome everyone. So today's going to be a little bit different because the turntable is still under construction, obviously. I've cleaned up as much of the mess as possible, but you can see the mechanism that I've been building is still very much visible. What's gone? The echo? Oh, maybe it was just my phone in my pocket that you were hearing. Okay, sounds good? All right, we'll leave it as is then. But yeah, so this turntable mechanism works now. I just haven't finished building the actual turntable part of it, so it's still an open pit. But if I do this, we can rotate it. So it will be a functional turntable. It needs the actual turntable part. It is a coincidence, Train Boy. I saw your comment, but if I was going to do something based on that, I would have put 12 there. Don't run the engine into the turntable pit. I can't promise anything, James. We're going to be streaming for a couple hours, so we'll see how it goes. It's entirely possible that something may end up going into the pit, but I will try not to do it accidentally. Three Rivers Rambler, it is basically scratch built, but it's going to have a lot of 3D printed parts. So I'm printing how the tables have turntable. Yes, they have. So I'm 3D printing the actual like bridge part that's going to rotate in one piece, hopefully, although there is obviously going to be an actual piece of track attached to it. I have obtained a piece of track for this purpose. Not that the camera will focus on it, but the All Atlas one I dismantled because it was, frankly, a piece of junk. It was never the greatest turntable from day one, but I pretty much worn it out. So you can actually see here, this is still the rim of the old Atlas one. I just cut it out. Oh, almost knocked over the excavator. I just cut it out so I can, because the track around the edges is still attached to this, so I didn't want to pull that up. So I just cut the center part out of the Atlas one, and then I'm going to 3D print a new piece to fit in it. And then these are RC car gears. There's a little gear motor down here that you probably can't see. See if I can get it. No, you can't really see it behind the stuff, but there's a little gear motor in there that I basically rigged up like a servo using servo electronics. So I have a knob over here, and whatever position I turn this to, that turns to the corresponding position. There's a gear motor. It turns this gear that's going to turn the actual turntable, and then it turns one over here attached to a potentiometer that tells it what position it's at. So because the gears are different sizes, it can actually turn over a much larger arc, like a larger number of degrees of turning than the servo mechanism normally could by itself, which is how it's able to cover all of these tracks over 270 degrees instead of the servo only being able to turn 180 degrees. So I used RC car gears for that because I had some spares. So if anybody's got a 2-wheel drive Traxxas / Stampede or Rustler, pop open the Spirit Gear cover on the back and you will see that exact gear. Usual switching moves is mostly just swapping consists around in the yard and swapping engines around. But once the turntable's done, then we will be able to turn locomotives on the turntable as well. Train Boy, the 3-truck Heisler. The 3rd truck was missing some parts, so I turned it into a 2-truck Heisler. B&O 200th anniversary. Ooh, I don't know. Actually, that might be a good excuse to build that O-gauge Thatcher Perkins. I don't know if I've told you guys on stream about that. I've been talking to some people about it. But I want to build... Basically, because MTH made a Thatcher Perkins a few years back with their old-time 460 tooling, and it was a nice engine, but the colors were completely wrong. So I got another one of those. I'm going to fix it up. I'm going to put a better sound system in it, because I don't like MTH sound very much. And I'm going to do an accurate Thatcher Perkins paint scheme on it. At least that's the plan. So maybe that'll be my B&O celebration. Hello, Chase. My thoughts on the EasyTech track. Fully plastic? I mean, it might be fine around the Christmas tree, but I found fully plastic track tends to not work that well, especially with metal wheels. They tend to climb up on the curves and derail. To be clear, hello, Tristan. To be clear, it's not going to be a full accurate Thatcher Perkins because the MTH model is actually based on the Walter E. Disney, but it is by far the closest thing available in O scale. 1 second. It's obviously missing some parts at the moment, but this is the MTH model that I'm going to be using. It's currently in a Christmas scheme. You can see there's no motor in it right now. I need to put that back in. But it's not an exact match for the Thatcher Perkins. The dome's in the wrong place. It's too large overall. The running boards should be higher. The windows aren't arched, etc., etc. But I'm going to at least try and do a better one than what MTH did with their factory version of this. Ooh, a Pennsy G5. Chase, I was thinking about doing a Walter E. Disney in G-scale. I don't think I'm going to do that because I couldn't find a set of blueprints for it. I actually talked to a friend of mine who knows people who work at Disney, and apparently the blueprints for the Walter E. Disney are a closely guarded corporate secret. So I've kind of abandoned that plan. I thought about just basing it on this MTH model, but comparing this to photos, they did adjust the proportions slightly on this to make it look better next to standard gauge equipment, because the real Disney is narrow gauge. So the G-scale project is on hold for now. I'm thinking instead at some point, once I get back around to that, instead of a Walter E. Disney, I might just build a Sierra 3 in G-scale. I think that would be a bit more achievable and equally cool, if not more interesting. So that's probably what I'll do. But again, we're talking projects months or years in the future. I do still have the G-scale Back to the Future engine, speaking of Sierra 3, from the Back to the Future video. You can see I've done a little bit of work to it since that video. I 3D printed some new wheel centers that look a little bit more like Sierra 3. But obviously the whole overall proportions of it are still not quite right, so at some point I think it would be cool to modify this, change the driver spacing, 3D print a new boiler and cab and everything, and make it an actual scale Sierra 3, but again, projects for the distant future. Not something that I have time to tackle right now. Welcome, Chessie. I'm doing good. Have a good night, train boy. Alright, well, let's get some trains running. Let's do number 8 first. And we'll do the freight consist, I guess. As seen on the recent Providence Northern video. It is weird that Disney would keep the blueprints a secret for that engine. Because they've published the blueprints for some of their other locomotives. Like, I forget which one, but I think the Lily Bell and the EP Ripley. I don't know. I don't know all the Disney ones that well, but I'm pretty sure that there was a book that had blueprints for some of them in it. So I don't know why they would choose to keep that one specifically a secret. I know Lifelike did make the Walter E. Disney in HO, but it was... I don't think it was any more accurate than the MTH one. Oh, I almost forgot. We have another new thing on stream today. Finally got the drive-in working. So, I still don't have an HDMI cable long enough to run to the computer, but I dug out a DVD player, and I have a Pentrex DVD of the California Western Railroad, filmed in 1990. So I thought we could put that on in the background. There's also no sound, and I'm hoping that this doesn't trigger YouTube's copyright stuff. I know I've seen pieces of this posted to YouTube before, so I think it should probably be fine. But we'll find out. Welcome, Austin. Yeah, Ivor, I would love to see somebody make a proper HO scale, true to scale Sierra number 3. Yeah, Bachmann did do a couple of Disney ones. I think they did the original Carol with Pacific Lily Bell as well. But it was just using their regular 440 tooling, which is based on the Inyo. Big Steamer, a good small Bachmann locomotive that won't lose power on the easy track switches. Well, this is probably not what you want to hear, but what I would recommend is getting rid of the easy track switches. Hold on, easy track switches, I have never had a positive experience with. I find the dimensional tolerances are pretty loose, and the frogs tend to sit up above the rail, which derails everything. And I just ran through an open switch, speaking of switches. Amazingly, did not derail. But if you can replace those with some Atlas switches sitting on top of a roadbed, that would be ideal. Otherwise, I would say whatever engine you get, add a keep alive capacitor to it if you're running DCC. Yeah, Lord Vader. The only true HO scale CR3 is the Arbor Models kit. I did see Darth Santa Fe got one of those at least partially put together, but from everything I've been told, the Arbor Models kits are almost impossible to build successfully. Austin, I sold the Shay, unfortunately. It was just becoming too much of a mechanical nightmare for me to deal with. Hopefully no more stream freezing. Anyway, let's get the movie started. I don't have the remote for this DVD player, so I'm just going to hit play and hope it works. That did nothing. Oh, no, it did do something. It's been so long since I played a DVD. But this was the first DVD I found, so this, I guess, is what we're going to watch. And for those who aren't aware, I grew up in Fort Bragg, California, where the Skunk Train has one end of the line, so this is the one Pentrex video that I actually bothered to buy on DVD instead of VHS because it's very nostalgic for me. I will say, going back to the Bachmann engine, of the small ones, like the ones that'll take 18-inch radius curves, your best bet is probably the 280 because it has the most axles with pickup on them. But I would still, if you're running DCC, I would still definitely add a keep alive capacitor. Oh, Lord Vader, you've got some Arbor model kits. You're a braver modeler than I for attempting those. I don't think I would ever bother with one. How many 440s do I have? That is a good question. I think my 440s might actually outnumber my 460s at this point. Let's see. I've got... Let me zoom out a bit so that when I hold stuff up to the camera, it can actually focus on it. I don't know. Does the picture of the general on the wall count? Let's see what I've got up here. Well, besides obviously the ones on the layout, we've got number 7, which is a modified Bachmann Spectrum Modern 440, and we've got my modified Rivarossi 440 over there, which the build video on that is probably the next video that's going to come out. But I also have a completely stock unmodified Rivarossi 440, which I bought solely for the purpose of having a normal one to compare to for that video. This is technically the poacher version, so it has the metal frame. What else? I have one of the Bachmann old tooling 440s, the ones that barely run. The ones that were so bad that Bachmann didn't even use... that Bachmann actually used the Rivarossi one in their advertising for this. What else? Oh, I forgot I had a Mantua Bell of the 80s up here. That one is a project that I still need to get to. Come on, camera. I really gotta get a better camera. This one just does not like to focus. There we go, finally. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I have a brass 999. This is really, really worn out. Does not run well at all. So it's probably not going to get fixed up much more than it is. I'll just make it a static display or something. But that counts. So, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6. Oh, and I do have a Bachmann new tooling 440, which is also an ongoing project. This is Westport number 1, but I do have that as well. So that is 7 HO scale 440s. I believe that's it for the HO scale ones. I do have a G scale one. Figure out where I put it. I have this G-Scale Heartland Locomotive Works one, which will get Blue Nami eventually. I have 3 O-gauge 440s. I have a not Mantua. I have an MTH Rail King General, and then I have 2 of the MTH Premier ones. I have the 999 with the big drivers, and I have the Union Pacific 119 version, which is just 999 with small drivers and a different paint scheme. Three Rivers Rambler, send me an email, redoaktrains@gmail.com. I would consider selling this 999, the HO scale one, but be aware, it really is not much of a runner. I actually put a CAN motor in it and got it fine-tuned as well as I could, and it does run. It's actually pretty smooth, but it's still really, really noisy. What else? Oh, yeah, almost forgot. I have an N-scale 440 as well. TFFC, welcome. Unfortunately, the Santa Fe F7 is still at my friend Peter's house. I lent it to him in exchange for helping me out with some stuff. Ryan Stallings, what we're looking at here is HO scale. I do have an O gauge layout, but it's 3 rail. But yeah, one more 440. I have this N scale model power one. Austin, yeah, I would love to do an O scale stream. I just need to get the layout room cleaned up first, because right now there are tools stacked all over it, so I can't run anything. But once I get some scenery started on the O gauge layout, I'd like to start a stream, doing streams there. Might even do a scenery building stream. Welcome, Oregonian, or Joel if you prefer. The tender on my Mantua Prairie is off of a roundhouse engine. Like, actually, the one that's running right now. If you look at that, it's the same tender. And the oil tanks on both are Bachmann Spectrum ones that came with 440s. So it's just a roundhouse tender. So 7 in HO scale, 1 in G, 3 in O, 1 in. So I have 12 440s in total, which is, I'm pretty sure, more than I have 460s. Crazy Spud. Yeah, don't worry, it's not the Bachmann one. At some point, I think it would be cool to get the Atlas one, which was like the Bachmann one but better. But I've yet to see one of those for a price that isn't absurd. The Bachmann 262 that was converted into 460. That thing never really ran right. It was always just kind of a hodgepodge of parts that I kept doing different things with in the hopes that something would work well. It didn't work that well as a Prairie. It worked even worse as a 10-wheeler. I did eventually end up parting it out. However, it is not completely dead, because a few months ago, I got a very good deal on a Bachmann Southern 280 that had a cracked frame. So I replaced the frame with one from, well, okay, it's not technically, because the innards of the 262 went into the Union Pacific Bachmann 280 that I made a video on, and then some parts of that went into this Southern one. I'm not actually certain if there are any parts from my original 280 in this one. I think the main driver axle might be from the 262, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But there's probably some bits and pieces from it in there. Will I make vids like I used to? You're talking about like the layout update videos? I might start doing those again. I want to start doing some of those on the O gauge layout once I actually make some progress on it and have something to update you on. Possible to make a better Prairie with Bachmann's new 060. You know, that's an interesting idea. Let me take a look, actually, because I do have one of those here. I'm pretty sure they do not have the screw holes that the old 060s have to add the pilot and trailing trucks. So you would have to get a little bit creative there. So here is Bachmann's new 060. Yeah, the frame, the shape of the frame's a little bit different. You can see there's no place to attach them, but I wonder if you could, if you got creative, you could probably drill some holes and figure out a way to do that. The pilot's still very short for a 262, so you might end up wanting to try and extend that, maybe even just 3D print a new bottom cover with a longer amount for a longer pilot. But I think it's certainly doable. I don't see why you couldn't. It would just take a little bit more effort than one of the old ones, because you can't just swap existing parts directly onto it. Any Canadian-inspired locomotives? I should have some Canadian stuff. Because I mean, I lived in Canada for like 8 years. You'd think I would have some Canadian stuff. I do want to get a Rapido D10 at some point. I just don't have that kind of money to drop on one locomotive at the moment. Proto 2000 080 with QSI sound that's hardwired in. I mean, it's a fairly straightforward job to replace a hardwired decoder. It's just kind of tedious. Because what you have to do... Well, first of all, look on the circuit board and see if there's markings to indicate what wire does what, like which one is left rail, which is right rail, motor, lights, etc. If those are marked, then you can just transfer those over to the new decoder, solder them on one at a time to keep track of which one's which. If they're not marked, you'll have to do a little detective work, like check the continuity from the wheels to each wire to figure out which one's left and right rail. I think on those Proto 2000s, you can pop the front of the smoke box off and access the light wires, so you can check the continuity on those to figure out which one is the lights, and then the other two will be the motor. And then you can just solder them onto the decoder wires. Lord Vader, the old IHC Mogul that I had, I ended up selling to a friend, Ricardo, who I think is in the stream. But I do have another one now that I'm working on customizing. That'll get a video eventually when it's more finished. CN7470. Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, my Proto 2000 060 was kind of sort of like that for a while. Number 11. Are you talking about the custom Rivarossi 440, the Reno? That's going to eventually become Westport number 2. Have I done any sound installations on diesels? Yeah, I've done a couple. They're generally a little bit easier than steam engines because you don't have to worry about running wires between the engine and tender, but they can also be a little challenging because it's more difficult to find space for the speaker. But on balance, they're not that hard. The Southern Green 060, number 11 0460. I've kind of given up on that project. Like, for backstory, for those who aren't aware, I was thinking about taking what was left of 13 and turning it into a backdated 460 that I was going to call number 11. I've kind of given up on that because there just wasn't enough of 13 to salvage. So I just took what I could and put it on 12. So 12 is basically what number 11 was going to be. The Bachmann Southern Green 060, that one I ended up having to swap the shell because the green paint was flaking off. And I think I turned that into a Canadian National engine. I just swapped the shells with one, and I sold that as well. 8 RS1s, dang. Yeah, send me an email. I can do sound install commissions. The only thing is I have a bit of a backlog right now, so it might be a few months before I can get to it. But I'd be happy to do them. Thank you, Three Rivers Ramble. Yeah, I'm really happy with how 12 turned out. We can run that, actually. Let's do that now. Let me take 8 off and we'll run 12. I wonder if we can fit 2 engines on the turntable lead. Ooh, 4-wheel trailing truck on an IHC Pacific. That'll be cool. Turn it into a Hudson. I think you were talking about that in a previous stream. Yeah, Robert, I'll have to check out the night freight as well. I should do a nighttime train running stream one of these days. What if I just turn out the light? Will you actually be able to see anything? Oh, that actually looks kind of cool. can't really see much except headlights, but it looks kind of cool. Turn this back on so I can see what I'm doing. Yeah, the big driver swap. It is pretty easy. The only thing is you need the bottom cover plate from the large driver version as well, so the pickup wipers are in the right place. But if you have the bottom cover plate and the drivers, there are some other little minor things to tweak, like the pilot truck. But yeah, it's not too... Okay, I've lost the thingy that I was using to uncouple, so I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way. Uh-oh. Okay. Well, it had to happen at some point. I forgot how much momentum was on this thing. Should have just left it there, then we'd have more room. Alright, let me move 7 forward. That's a fender bender. I gotta rig up the soundboard so it's usable on the train running strippers. Actually, you know what? I need to use the bathroom, so I'm going to scooch the camera over and let you guys watch the movie for a few minutes here. This is now a Pentrex stream. Three Rivers, yeah, some of the older Bachmann 460s had the bluish headlight. It's just because they were made in an era when white LEDs were kind of bluish tinted, it's easy enough to swap out. I have not been to Knott's Berry Farm, but it is on my bucket list. Alright, I will be back in a few minutes. Y'all behave. folks. Everybody behaving in here? Let's see what I missed in chat. Actually, I didn't miss anything in chat. I'm watching the stream on my phone, but... Let's not behave. Thank you for that, Sebastian. Yes, that Alco. There. Well, the CWR had 2 Alcos. One's in Napa, the other one's in storage somewhere. I don't know which one's which. Crazy Spud, the audio is worse because I'm using a different microphone because the regular one is not working, and I don't know why. Lord Vader, the sound decoder in the Spectrum 440 is a Soundtrack Tsunami 2. I picked a different chuff set and different whistles and stuff. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot to mute these. Yeah, it's just a Tsunami 2. I just tweaked the settings so it doesn't sound like every other Tsunami 2 out of the box. Alright, let's run 12. I do need lights in the passenger cars. Three Rivers Rambler, I normally just use the built-in mic on my camera, which is a Panasonic V770, but for some reason, the audio feed from that is not giving me anything. I don't know why. Is Michael secretly a Heist fan? Nothing secret about it. I watch Heist all the time. Yeah, normally I just use the built-in mic on my camera. I don't know why the feed on that isn't working today. So today I busted out my ancient blue Snowball, which is probably 15 years old, because it was the only other mic I could find. Railroader save based off the California Western would be cool. I believe... Was it... who was it who told me this? One of the people I was playing Railroads Online with. I'm sorry, I forgot who. Because there was a whole discussion about it. But, the line in Railroader is actually based on the Great Smoky Mountains Railroad, which was a former Southern Railway branch. So the Railroader does actually exist in real life. Rolling Line. I gotta play that one of these days. I played it for a few minutes a long time ago, and I couldn't really get the hang of it, but I need to give it another shot because it does look cool. Watching Heist while watching the stream simultaneously. There you go. Multitasking. I do want to get like an ES&D boxcar at some point. I think that would be cool. Alright, let's run 12. See if I can frame this so you can see the movie still. Rolling Line does have multiplayer. Okay. Maybe I'll consider that as something we could possibly play on stream eventually. Okay. Also, I have misplaced my usual engineer's hat, so today we've got the Train World hat that I got for free at a train show a couple years ago. I am not sponsored by Train World, but they did give me a free hat. Oops. Logging mic like 45. I do have one of the Northwest Shortline brass models of 45 stashed away for a future project, but it's not going to be a Westport engine. I'm going to make it into 45 in its 90s maroon paint scheme. Yeah, Train World is pretty decent. I'm certainly not complaining about them. They're certainly as good as any of the other stores out there. My personal favorite right now that I get a lot of my parts from is Iron Planet Hobbies. Because I have a discount code for them that they sent me when I signed up. And it seems to work an unlimited number of times. But I also buy a lot of stuff from Streamline Backshop when Iron Planet doesn't have it. Railroads Online. Yeah, I find Railroads Online, it works better in single player than it does in multiplayer. It doesn't work great in any form, but single player on the Pine Valley map is at least somewhat playable. I do want to put interiors in the passenger cars eventually. Technically, the River Rossi ones have them, but no figures. They do have very empty interiors. Would be funny if the Chuffs on 12 matched the Chuffs on 45. Gilded Rail, you might have been the one who told me that. I can't remember. Slow this down a little bit. It's running at my usual passenger speed. Yeah, the snack bar caboose, unfortunately, when we were moving the layout out of the old house, or actually it might have been before that. It might have been when we moved it from one side of the room to the other, but the snack bar caboose fell off the layout and was pretty severely damaged, so I just retired it. Oh, you're in Canada. Otter Valley or Hobby Tech. I'm trying to remember who I ordered stuff from usually when I was in Canada. Honestly, because I worked at BC Hobbies at the time, I usually just got stuff through them. And I believe they do ship, so you can always look them up and get stuff from them. They carry more RC stuff than train stuff, but they do have some train stuff. Tyco Tender Drive in real life. A 45-tonner chassis under its tender. That's pretty funny. I guess that's sort of like those fake locomotives they built for the Lone Ranger movie that had diesel engines in the tenders. Chuffs on 12 are... Okay. Well, I guess that settles what decoder I'm using in 45, because this is just a Soundtrax Econami. This is one of, I think, the 4 Chuff sets that it comes with. And it does sound a lot like 45. Hello, Red Dead! Oh, I'm glad the isopropyl alcohol worked. I was going to suggest lacquer thinner, which is a bit stronger because I wasn't sure if isopropyl would get through that Tamiya paint, but if isopropyl got through it, then absolutely, yeah. Isopropyl is always what I try first for stripping paint because it doesn't hurt any metals or plastics that I'm aware of. I only resort to stronger stuff if isopropyl doesn't work. Hey, Peter! Welcome! I should get a yard office. Model Rail fan, BC Hobbies prices used to be very high a few years back when they were under a different owner. I think they've gone down a little bit. They're definitely not the lowest, but I think they're about average nowadays. But yeah, I mean, if I have no obligation to promote them anymore because I don't work for them anymore, although I am still a fan of them. So if you find something you like there, by all means buy it. But if you can find a better price, certainly go for that. Peter, you can see how the turntable is going. It is still very much under construction, but I took a poll and people wanted to stream anyway. So the actual mechanism works great. There's just no turntable attached to it yet. Sumter and Choctaw 102. Okay, I'll have to look at that. Oh yeah, that's the thing with isopropyl. You do got to be careful with it because it will take off a lot of factory paint. Berkshire Mainline, the turntable's printing as we speak. Actually, let me check on it. So this is just a fairly low resolution test print, but this is possibly the final design for the turntable deck. I'm not sure if this is going to be the final design yet. I may end up tweaking it a little bit, but the main thing is I want to see if the piece of track fits in here. I took measurements and tried to design it so that it would just pop in. I think... Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to tweak it very slightly. Because if it fits perfectly at that end, but then by the time it gets to this end, it's about 0.5 millimeter off. So, back to the drawing board on that one. I'll have to scale this whole thing very slightly to make that fit. But, actually, while we have this, we can balance it on here and get at least a loose idea of what it's going to look like finished. It's not going to be quite like last time. There will be a pit, but it's only going to be about 1 centimeter deep, because that's about all the room that I have before it starts hitting the mechanism. But I'm going to try and make it at least look like there's a pit. So it should at least be better than last time. But you can see here, there's not a whole lot of clearance there between the top of this gear and the bottom of the turntable deck. Red Dead engine on my shirt. I believe it's Rio Grande Southern 42. I got this shirt at a hobby shop in Southern California. There were a whole series of these done by a local artist. I got one of each. They were mostly Colorado narrow gauge. So this one is RGS 42. There's also one that's RGS 20, and there's one that's, I think, a K36. I forget which number. The Ma and Pa Railroad, Maryland, Pennsylvania? Yeah. Matter of fact, number 12 and number 7 are both based on Ma and Pa prototypes, as actually number 8 is too. This is all custom. The turntable is completely custom. I'm kind of designing it as I go and experimenting to figure out what'll work and what won't. It's all just made out of 3D printed stuff and parts that I had lying around. Thank you, Red Dead. The turntable's definitely not done yet, but it's coming along. It's getting there. I was hoping to have it done in time for the stream. That did not happen because it turns out it actually takes time to design and build something like this from scratch. So the hard part, I think, is done, which is the mechanism. So the servo-based mechanism will get it to within a couple degrees of where it needs to be, and then there's going to be magnets that will get it lined up perfectly. I have a bunch of these little neodymium rare earth magnets. Come on, camera. There we go. I have a bunch of these little neodymium earth magnets, so I'm going to have one of those attached to the turntable deck, and then one next to each stall, so that as it approaches each stall, the magnet will pull it into perfect alignment. Yeah, Peter, I am watching the Pentrix California Western. I do really want to work on 45. I just have so many projects and commissions and stuff going at the moment that it kind of keeps getting pushed back. But sooner or later, I will get around to it. Crazy Spud. If you're looking for opinions of those two, I would do Rock Island, because I feel like Union Pacific's really overdone. But I mean, it's up to you, of course. But I think Rock Island's more interesting. Yeah, Peter, I'll have to get back to you on whether it's going to need any brass solder work. I know I want to add a cab interior to it, but that'll probably be 3D printed. And I'm going to wait until I get the new motor installed first, so that I can tell what dimensions I'm working with. I might try and repurpose the one I designed for the Mantua Prairie, or I might try and just design a new one that matches the prototype. Hello, Chesty. I think besides the spark arrestor, it's pretty much as good to go detail-wise. I think most of the detail that it needs is there from the factory. I do have a motor that I'm considering using, but I haven't fully decided which one it's going to be yet. I might end up doing something different depending on what fits, what runs well, etc., etc. So that's still an ongoing thing. Or rather, a thing that is waiting until I'm done with other things to be ongoing. I do have a number of commissions lined up, so it may be a little while before I get to it, but I can work on it in the background during some of that. James, the vehicles? These are a mix of different manufacturers. There's a lot of Oxford models in here. There's some Fresh Cherries ones. There's a couple of Classic Metalworks ones. I don't remember who all makes what. I know the Porsche at the end is Model Power. I think the Blue Mustang is also Model Power. I'm pretty sure the brown wagon is Classic Metalworks. Most of the 80s and 90s ones are Fresh Cherries, and I'm pretty sure the Charger and the El Camino are Oxford, but I'm not sure about the rest. I just buy whatever HO vehicles look decent that I can get for a price that isn't absurd. Oh yeah, the Ferteshi Model Power 460 and 280. My friend Quentin's Model Works on YouTube, who I don't think he's in the stream tonight, but he shows up here sometimes, has been working his way through talking me into getting one of those. So I do want to get one at some point. The A30 HO scale Model T. Yeah, 30 is way too much. I think I do actually have one. I'm not 100% sure if that's what this is. But this might be one of those. I did not spend $30 on this, though. I don't remember how much I paid, but it was not very much. Yeah, the Oxford ones are pretty nice for the price. Alright, have a good one, Lord Vader. Cheers. Yeah, Rock Island and Santa Fe are both pretty cool. I'm partial to Santa Fe myself, because I grew up on the West Coast. But Rock Island did some cool stuff, too. Oh, our music ended. I don't know if anybody noticed, but in the Providence Northern video, I used the same music that I use on these streams. These videos are getting long enough and frequent enough that the 7-minute song that I normally use is no longer sufficient. Yeah, $30 for... The thing is, with HO scale cars, is that they are expensive because they're such a niche product. Like, Matchbox cars, they can price them at a couple bucks a piece because they sell them like hotcakes. Because every kid buys them. It's all about economy of scale. So 1/87th is really not a very common scale outside of trains. So anything made to that scale is going to be a pretty small production product, which means by definition it's going to be more expensive. So that is the unfortunate reality. That's one of the reasons I like going to train shows, because frequently you'll find people just have a box of random ones that they're selling for like $5 a piece, and you can get some neat stuff there. I have not built any of the Jordan Highway Miniatures kits, Red Dead. I think I might have one stashed away somewhere that somebody gave me, but I have not built up the courage to attempt it because it does look really difficult. Rio Grande is super cool, honestly. Heist has kind of opened my eyes to what a neat railroad the Rio Grande was. I would love to do a Rio Grande narrow gauge layout at some point. I just need to find a scale to do it in that doesn't cost an arm and 3 legs. Even $15 isn't terrible. 20 I think is pushing it for me. I just go to train shows and get them cheap. But at this point I don't really need any more because the layout's fully populated, so I haven't bought one in a while. I don't really have room for any more. Yeah, Pensy, New York Central, and Nickel Plate are all neat. I always kind of like the Nickel Plate for no particular reason. I think because a lot of the... one of the... Was it one or it might have been several? A couple of the train books that I had as a kid had a lot of nickel plate stuff in them. Yeah, 3D printer is a lot cheaper per item build. That's why this whole turntables thing is going to be 3D printed. Yeah, standard and narrow gauge modeling are different. I want to do both on one layout. That's a bucket list thing for me, is to have both standard and narrow gauge in the same scale on one layout. I'm going to try and do something sort of like that on the O gauge. The current plan is to have a slightly elevated street scene behind the main line on one side, sort of like what I've got here, but the street's going to be a little bit higher, and the buildings are going to be more detailed, not just paper flats. And then I'm going to have a point-to-point narrow gauge line running down the middle of the street, where I can either run a trolley, or I can have like a steam engine and a couple of cars shuttling back and forth. Yeah, train shows do kind of have a way of taking all your money. That is one of the downsides. You just got to learn to have what you want to find in mind when you get there, and try not to impulse buy too much stuff. Yeah, Bachmann, I think, would do really well in HO and 3 if they got into that market, or do HO and 30. I do still have that EBT number 10. I'm thinking I might actually make a video on it before I sell it, because I've realized lately, looking at this thing, that the Blue Box 10-wheeler is actually pretty decent. Blow the whistle. Where did the camera go? I'm actually not sure what whistle this is. I think it's a B&O 3 chime, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Southern Pacific, yeah, we can run the Prairie. Maybe when it comes around to the siding, I'll take 12 off and we can throw the Prairie on there. The problem with narrow gauge converting the EBT-10 is it is kind of too big to be a narrow gauge engine, because it is a Ma and Pa prototype. Oops, I've overshot it. So it's always kind of going to look like a standard gauge engine. Yeah, we can run number 10 in a little bit. I don't think it has a decoder in it right now, so we might have to take all the other engines off in order to run it. Alright, I'm going to pull the Prairie forward. And then we can back 12 into the siding. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I am pretty pleased with how the Prairie turned out. Oops! Ran through the switch the wrong way. I keep doing that. The Keep Alive kept it going a long time ago. You can tell when there's a short circuit because all the headlights go out. Ten and the Prairie together I'll have to check if 10 has a decoder in it. I'm not certain if it does. Stephen, the Prairie is a Mantua kit. I did do some custom work on it. I put a different motor in it, different tender. But it is mostly an old Mantua kit. Red Dead, I'll probably stream for another hour or so, maybe hour and a half. I'd like to wrap it up before midnight. Have I ever thought of going back to the Michael Ramsey YouTube name? I don't know. I mean, I switched it to Red Oak Train so it'd be easier to find when people were just searching. Because, I mean, like, Michael Ramsey could be anybody. I feel like Red Oak Trains is more memorable. Ma and Pa is the nickname for the Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad, a now defunct East Coast short line, but their steam engines were the prototypes for Bachmann's 460 and 440. No, the tender is off of a roundhouse engine. If you look at number 8 here, this is a roundhouse 280 that has the same tender. The oil tank on it is off of a Bachmann Spectrum 440, I think it was. So it's a mix of parts, but they are all commercially available parts. Yeah, well, okay, let me put 10 on the track and see if it's got the decoder in it. Because if it does, then we can double hit it with the Prairie. Nope, it does not. So unfortunately, if we want to run this, we're going to have to run this by itself. But let's run the Prairie by itself for now. Okay. I keep misplacing the power cab, even though it's on a cord, so there's only so far it can go. So, move 12 forward. Steven, yes, I'm using an NC power cab. I've gone back and forth between NCE and Digitrax a few times, but I seem to always come back to NCE. It's just easier to use. The one thing I don't like about the power cab is the scroll wheel throttle, so I just use the buttons. I wish it had a knob. I've actually taken the scroll wheel out of this one because I've replaced the encoder in it like 3 times, and it just kept going out, so... Oh, that's the wrong direction. So I just took the encoder out and put a piece of styrene in there. So it just has buttons now, but the buttons work fine. Thank you, Southern Pacific. I am super happy with how 12 looks with the big drivers. The combination of the low boiler frame and the big drivers is such a neat look. There was a real class of engines on the Southern Railway. I think it was the F8 class that looked almost exactly like that. If you go back to my one of my older videos, I think it's called A Tale of Two 10-Wheelers, I showed how the driver swap is done. Ooh, Crazy Spot, I love SnowRunner. I kind of want to do a series at some point streaming SnowRunner, even though it's not really train related. It's because it's such a good game. Yeah, I've heard that the older Digitrax Zephyrs, the DCS 50 and 51, were kind of iffy. The one that I use sometimes is the DCS 52, which is a bit better, but it's still not quite as It's a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, I feel like. I do really like the knob and the switch and like the physical controls that it has, but the power cab just works. If Bachmann were to make American HON3, what should their first model be? Ooh. I mean, realistically, it probably should be like one of the big K Mikados. But I would love to see a Rio Grande Southern 20. Steven, I'll check out your channel after the stream. Oh, there's another SnowRunner season dropping. I haven't played it in a while. I gotta get back into it. Chessie, the only reason I picked number 18 for the Prairie is because I got a bag of various random little detail parts from Red Dead, and there was a number 18 number plate in there. I think there were a few others too, but when I picked one out of the bag to use, 18 was the one I got, so that's what I went with. Yeah, Model Rail fan. So what I ended up doing, because I do like the power cab, it's easy to program on, but I do wish it had a physical knob, is I got one of these. You can usually get these pretty cheap. These are the NCE add-on throttles. You can get them with the potentiometer knob, which has fixed endpoints. Oops. No. Okay, so apparently this throttle was assigned to number 8, and I did not know that, and I just ran number 8 into the turntable pit again. This is the second time on this cursed stream that this has happened. Ooh, Tweetsy is cool. Thank you, Southern Pacific. Yeah, I haven't decided if I want this to be the permanent whistle on the Prairie yet. Honestly, I might end up swapping whistles between the Prairie and 12, because I do think the B&O 3 chime would suit this one well. I'm pretty sure this is a Southern Pacific 6 chime, but I'm not 100% sure. You know what? I'm going to pick up number 8 and put it on here. Oh, this track's also powered, isn't it? Okay, hold on. I still have a rotary switch down here that controls which track is powered. So, like, if I were to put locomotives on these other tracks, I can switch between which one of them was powered. One of the things I want to do re the turntable is add lamps to these bumpers at the end so that I can easily see which track is powered. But like now, if I switch between the tracks, the headlight will tell me which one. But I'm going to switch it to a track that has nothing on it so that we don't run engines into the turntable pit anymore. That's a fender bender. Oh yeah, Great Smoky Mountains. I was actually talking about that earlier because that is the prototype for the route in the game Railroader. Model Rail fan, the Spectrum 440 is number 7. Yeah, we can run the 440. Maybe we'll run that with a passenger train. This camera just will not focus. Yeah, EBT-10 and HON3 would be cool. Honestly, I feel like if Bachmann did HON3, the obvious first engine to do would be the Tweetsy 10-wheeler, because they've done that in G and ON30. Railroader streams will happen... I don't know. Like, I'm looking forward to them, but I'm also kind of enjoying the model train streams. I don't really want to give these up just yet, although we could just alternate back and forth. Anyway, yeah, let me... we've been running the Prairie for a bit. Maybe I'll switch this out. I'll put the freight train away, and we can run a passenger train. Oh, we can do EBT 10 first. We'll run a... Actually, let's run EBT 10 with the freight train before we do anything else. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Thank you, Southern Pacific. The number is actually just a Woodland Scenics dry transfer. The cab is off of the Bachmann-Richmond version of that 440, and then I did wood with my usual wood technique, which I have a video on. It's just layers of brown washes on top of a light brown base. 2 streams per week, I think, would be a little bit much. That would be a lot of streams. I think I'm pretty happy with the once a week thing. So I'm going to put all of the engines on these tracks so the main line is empty, because we need to switch over to DC power to run the EBT engine. And if we have DC power on the track while these DCC engines are on the track, they will all run away at different speeds. So we don't want that. So we'll just slap all of these on here. And then, let's see. Alright, I think we're all set for that. Ooh, Georgetown Loop is sweet. Chess System, if I was going to sell number 10, which I will eventually, probably... I don't know. If I was going to list it on eBay, I think it'd be around 180. That's what I think these usually go for. If I was going to sell it privately, I could do a little less because there's no eBay fees, so I do like probably 150. If you're interested, send me an email, redoaktrains@gmail.com, and we can figure something out. But I do want to make a video with it first before I sell it. I do have an uncoupler pen, I just have misplaced it in the turntable construction chaos. The bigger Pullman coaches... Oh, like the ones in the yard over here? Come on, camera. We can run those in a bit. I've been kind of avoiding running those because they're not as free-rolling as my other coaches, so a lot of my engines tend to slip a bit running them, but... They do look nice. Model Rail fan, no. The old-time 440 is still taken apart. I just have too many other projects going on. Yeah, this is one of the newer Bachmann Blue Box 460s. These are honestly pretty nice. They're not as detailed as the Spectrum ones, but for what they are, for being a fairly basic die-cast model, it's hard to complain. They do run pretty good. They pull decently. And they're pretty much the only option for its brand new 10-wheeler and HO right now. TFFC, yeah, the boiler's die-cast. The cab is plastic now. The Spectrum ones had a metal cab. This version has a plastic cab, but the boiler and frame are still die-cast. Yeah, it is definitely inaccurate because it's standard gauge. It's actually Maryland and Pennsylvania number 28, disguised as EBT 10. But that's Bachmann for you. Make one model and slap every road name under the sun on it. Yeah, I do need to probably... I've tried oiling them and it didn't help much. I think they just need different wheels. The River Rossi trucks just don't seem to roll that well. Model Rail fan, I actually bought 2 of these number 10s at a train show. I didn't really need more 460s, but they were too good a deal to pass up. And the guy agreed to give me a really good price if I bought both of them, so I bought both of them, and I already sold one. But I'm going to make a video on this one before I sell it. Yeah, the paint scheme's not bad. Yeah, I can look for the uncoupler. It actually is pretty visible. Oh, you know what? Actually, I have a couple more. So what I use for uncouplers are actually these little tooth cleaner things that I found at the grocery store. They work really well. They're like a little tiny miniature pipe cleaner thing, basically. So you just stick that down in the coupler and turn it back and forth, and it uncouples. And they are pretty visible. Like, they're white and lime green. It's hard to get more visible than that. I've just had a bunch of stuff all over the layout lately because I've been working on the turntable. Oh, and you know what? Here it is. Here's the other one that I was using. So yeah, I find these work better than pencils or skewers. What I should do is have a little cup attached to the edge of the layout here that I can just put it in. Southern Pacific, I do actually have another IHC 260 that I'm working on. Grab it. So the tender is currently disassembled, but this is what I'm working on. It's got a Bachmann Decapod boiler front. I've done some paint and some mild weathering on it. Still a work in progress, but it'll be interesting. Yeah, I know the audio is not great. I'm using a different mic because my regular one isn't working. SIR, I have sort of repeated my 10-wheeler wheel swap experiment in that 12 has big drivers now, but obviously I'm not going to sell 12. TFFC, the right tools make all the difference for stuff like that. Like, cheap tools will make it a nightmare. Good tools and practice will make it a piece of cake. You just need to get good quality stuff. Like, Tamiya drill bits are really good. Get good drill bits, get a good pin vise. And be patient with it. Athearn's upcoming Union Pacific 119. Yeah, that is literally just the same boiler as their 280 and 260. Just slapped on a 440 chassis. Doesn't look right at all. I will make a video on the progress of the 260 when I get a bit further along with it. It's not quite ready for prime time at the moment. Obviously, you can see the tender's taken apart. I was experimenting with putting 13's old Vanderbilt tender on it, which is what this is half of. I'm not 100% sure I like the look. It's a bit short for this engine, but I might do that. Another video on the water-based smoke unit. Yeah, maybe once I get a bit more development going with it. I want to see if I can figure out how to make it puff. That'll probably be the next major innovation. Adam Savage rule of tools. Buy cheap when it breaks, buy the next more expensive one. I mean, that's not a bad philosophy. My philosophy tends to be buy nice tools for the stuff you're going to use a lot, buy cheap tools for the stuff you're only going to use occasionally. Jared Games, yeah, search Red Oak Trains on Discord and friend request me, and we'll get you set up there. Ooh, a Rapido Royal Hudson with sound for 400. Yeah, for 400, I'd absolutely go for that. Biggest engine I have in HO? I don't really have a lot of big engines in HO, honestly. It would probably be either this Bachmann 280 or this Mantua Atlantic. They're both almost exactly the same size. For the water-based smoke unit, you're saying for HO engines? I am going to try and make that happen eventually, but it's really tricky to fit in there. Again, I have a lot of commissions and projects to get through. Yeah, short Vanderbilt honestly wouldn't look too bad. It would look very Southern Pacific. At that point, I almost feel like I should switch back to the regular smokebox front because that has more of a Southern Pacific look to it. If I was in charge of making a Bachmann starter set, we're talking stuff that they currently make? I don't know. I'd probably do like basically the Chattanooga set, but with the 280. All right, Jared. I'll check Discord after the stream. I think I've missed a few chats. Yeah, pulling ability. Speaking of which, that's one of the main issues that I'm having with that IHC engine. Like, for its size, you'd think it would be able to pull a decent amount, but it just doesn't. The engine I'm running, how slow does it run? Once it comes around, I'll stop it, and we'll do a little slow speed test. Any locomotives under Western Maryland? Not in HO, but I do have an N-scale one. I have an N-scale Bachmann 280 in Western Maryland. All right, slow speed test time. Also, please excuse the background noise. I'm making tea. All right, let's see how slow this will go. Well, it's a little bit jumpy, but that's not bad. Considering that these Bachmann 460s have never really been known to be for the greatest slow speed performance, that's not bad. Austin, what is this called? Celestial Seasonings Country Peach Passion. Favorite 3-foot gauge locomotive? Wow, hard to pick. I would say probably the Glenbrook. I've always had a soft spot for that one. It is a little jittery. Part of the problem is that these have 3-pole motors and they're geared fairly fast. Oh yeah, the Athearn 260 will be a really good crawler because those are geared super slow. I think this probably would perform better at low speed with a good DCC decoder in it. This is just running on plain DC. Yeah, the new Bachmann 060s are fantastic. They run really nice. Those have a much better motor than the 460s because they have a bigger boiler, so they've got more room inside. Collins, I have a couple of brass engines. I have a brass California Western 45 that needs a lot of work. I have a brass New York Central 999 that needs a lot of work. And I have a brass Union Pacific Time Whaler that's in the middle of receiving a lot of work. I don't have any brass engines that are really currently operable. Yeah, good slow start is really nice. I mean, frankly, we could run the 999. It's just really loud. Models with no real-life prototypes, I like them as long as they're somewhat plausible. Would the 260 have a 3 or 5 chime? I don't know. I haven't really gotten that far yet. I mean, heck, I haven't decided on whistles for half of these engines. I just try different ones until I find something I like. Any Kato? Well, besides some N-scale Unitrack, I don't currently have any, but I do really like the stuff they make. I just can't afford most of it. What engine do I regret buying? Oh, story time. Okay. So, last year, I bought a Broadway Limited HO scale streamlined K4 with Paragon 3. I got a decent deal on it. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll get into the streamlined Art Deco era engines. That thing was the most troublesome model I've ever had, and I've had a lot of extremely troublesome models. Paragon 3, and I'm not going to pull any punches here, Paragon 3 is the biggest pile of hot garbage I've ever had the misfortune of dealing with in the DCC world. First of all, it would stop completely randomly on spots that other locomotives, even ones without a Keep Alive, had no problems with. So I put a Keep Alive in it, or like the proprietary Broadway Limited one, and then it would run, but sometimes it would forget its address and just run away. And apparently, from everything that everyone told me, this is just normal Paragon 3 behavior. Also, it sounded terrible. So even though it was a beautiful engine, I ended up selling it, and I could not wait to wash my hands of the stupid thing. So, long story short, Paragon 3, not a good time. That is the engine I regret buying the most, and I'm glad that I finally got rid of it for most of the money that I put into it. Have a good one, Model Rail fan. ESU decoders, I have tinkered with them briefly. I'm not that familiar with them. I mostly use soundtracks and TCS. What engine do I love the most? Oh, I've got so many. If we're talking real engines, I mean, CR3 is a classic. How loud is 999's whistle? The O-gauge one is decently loud. The HO one that I have, the brass one, is DC only, so it has no sound. And it's probably going to stay that way because the motor's really loud. I mean, we can run it, but it's pretty rough. And, I mean, okay, I guess we'll go out of that. See if it'll even pull this. So, this is the HO 999. It is a very old, very worn out brass model. I had to use some Mantua parts to make it run at all. And, well, just take a listen. This is with a CAN motor, by the way, the same one that I have in the Prairie and several other engines that normally run super quiet. So, for obvious reasons, I don't run this very often. Oh, you can't hear it? Well, you're not missing anything good. It sounds like it's sawing a piece of wood in half. It's definitely not the worst I've ever heard, but it's pretty bad. Camera being drowned in water. Is there like a noise reduction thingy on here that I can turn off? It sounds like I'm flushing the audio down the toilet. Southern Pacific, I would consider selling it. Email me, redoaktrains@gmail.com, and We can try and figure out a price. Yes, I sawed this boat in half. That is exactly what this sound reminds me of. I can try to run it slower. I don't know if it'll run slower. Almost sounds worse slower. It does look like the Red Dead Redemption Blue Train because the Red Dead Redemption Blue Train is based on 999. Matter of fact, my friend Red Dead Railroad is in the process of building a replica of the Red Dead one out of one of these brass 999s. And I offered him this one, but he found one in much better condition, which I think was all for the best. I'm kind of amazed it actually runs as well as it does if you ignore the noise. Oh, you headed to Pennsylvania to see 4014. Oh, definitely have fun with that. I wish it was coming closer to where I am so I could go see it, but I think Pennsylvania is as close to me as it's going to get. And that's like a 6-hour drive. It actually is pretty decently smooth with the CAN motor, and it pulls okay. It just makes a lot of noise doing it. How fast will it run? Let's find out. That's probably 100 scale miles an hour, right? I'm amazed it's staying on the track. This is how I used to run trains when I was like 5. At low speed, it sounds like a saw. At high speed, it sounds like a jet. I'm going to slow it down a bit. It actually kind of sounds worse going slow. Speed, power, beans. That, Chessie, that is as fast as it goes. That is on my Spectrum Magnum DC Transformer. That was full throttle. Yeah, Ricardo, this is my brass 999. It is a very loud runner, but it is kind of a neat model. Oh, you missed the speed? Alright, I'll do it again. Alright, that's it. That's as fast as it goes. All the beans. Jared, it is brass. Southern Pacific, I agree with the sentiment, but let's try and keep the language relatively family-friendly in the chat. Don't worry, this is not the original motor. It has a CAN motor in it. Jesse, I'm not going to run it into the turntable because I don't want to break the turntable. I sawed this train in half and repaired it with only flex tape. Oh, you're doing a fan motor in DCC conversion on a Tyco 460. Nice. I've done one of those before. Actually, I'm working on my second one, and I'm going to do at least 2 more. People saw the video of the first one I did for Red Dead, and they seem to like it a lot. City of Truro 999. I mean, I like to believe it was 999 because it makes a fun story. Realistically, we'll never know because the measuring of speed at the time just wasn't precise enough to know for sure. But I choose to believe it was 999. Also, folks, do not worry about the motor. It is not the original motor. I put a CAN motor in this thing. I don't know if you can see it, but... Come on, camera. Focus for once. Yeah, you can see there it's a CAN motor, so... It is not in any danger of overheating. Matter of fact... Yeah, it's not even warm. The strongest and slowest engine I have. That'll probably be my Brass 2662 Logger. I don't run this very often because it is kind of ungainly. But this was given to me by a friend from my childhood who was instrumental in fostering my love of trains, but has unfortunately since passed away, so I will probably never sell this. It desperately needs a paint job, but it has a CAN motor in it, so it actually runs pretty good. Should 3D print a 414.4. I mean, you can if you want. That would be a fascinating project. I mean, this is still a pretty small engine in the grand scheme of things. Oh, thanks, folks. Yeah, his name was Tony. He was an old British guy. Gave me a lot of train stuff, but this was the main thing that he gave me that I still have. We had a deal going when I was like 12 where he would give me a box of random train junk, and I would fix as much of it as I could, and then I got to keep a quarter of what I fixed, and the rest got donated to local kids. This was back when I lived in Fort Bragg near the California Western. He used to write a blog on local railroad history. I think it's probably still up. Southern Pacific, it's a tank and tender at the same time because that's how the prototype was. I don't remember what it is, but somebody found the prototype for this. And it did have a oil tank on the back of the cab, and then it pulled a water tank. Max speed that I try to depict, probably 40-ish, I guess. I mean, I've got pretty sharp curves. Oh, interesting, Ricardo. I'll have to look that up. Favorite 3-foot gauge diesel? I mean, there's not that many to choose from, but I do love the White Pass Alcos. I think those are really super cool. I have one of those in G-scale for whenever I eventually build a G-scale layout. We can see how slow this runs. I believe the CAN motor that is in this, it was one of the first CAN motor conversions I did. I think it was out of a dead Mantua engine. So it's a pretty decent motor. But, yeah, let's see how slow this will go. Is that moving? That is moving. That is actually pretty impressive. I think it's moving. I actually legitimately can't tell if it's moving. I think it might have stopped. Give it a little bit more juice. There we go. That is pretty darn slow. Oh, okay. It's not moving super evenly. It's probably just because it hasn't run in a long time. I did see the 3D printed bumpy ride locomotive, Ricardo. That's pretty neat. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, I think it might need a good cleaning and lubrication. Or actually, you know what? It's probably just the rubber tube driveline. I'm not going to go full beans on this thing because I don't want to risk it flying off the layout. Although, frankly, I doubt it would go that fast. L, B, and C, I have no idea what that means. My guess is that one of the presumably many previous owners of this lettered it as their fictional railroad. But honestly, I have no idea. I know it's not the actual prototype for it. At some point, I may re-letter this for Westport. Probably keep the number. Or maybe come up with like a fictional logging company. Georgetown Loop diesels. I'll have to look that up. I didn't know they had any. I do not currently have any British engines, no. Cursed but lovable is a really good way to describe a lot of logging locomotives, including this one. The prototype that it's based on... Oh, I wish I could remember... what it was. Let me see if I can find it in my Facebook messages, because somebody sent it to me. I think Vintage Renewed sent it to me. Maybe it was somebody else, because I can't find it. Oh, wait, no, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. U.S. Plywood Corporation, number, I think, 11. It's a small picture. Let me see if I can find a better one. Yeah, that's the one. U.S. Plywood Corporation number 11 is the prototype. So it says in Pacific, if you Google that, you'll find pictures of it. Alright, what I miss in chat? How to find the paint of the locomotive you're relettering. I don't know. Get a couple similar colors and mix them until you get close. Southern Pacific, the noise is the scroll wheel on my ancient Logitech mouse. It's loud, and it's like from the 90s, but it still works, so I'm still going to use it. Welcome back, Red Dead. No ill-fated triple headers. We ran my really janky Brass 999, and now we're running my other Brass engine that's currently operable, which is the 2662 logger. I do want to get some more log cars. The Bachmann China SY, I sold that, but I am informed by its current owner that it's doing well. I've seen a recent picture of it, and it looks great. They are very expensive. They're expensive at train shows, too. They're expensive everywhere because they're hard to find. Scarcity makes things expensive. How many 260s do I have? Ooh, that's a good question. Do I have a Mikado? Well, unless you count the brass one that isn't running, I don't think I currently do. Oh, wait, no, of course I do. I have the O-Gauge Southern 4501. How could I forget? Duh. I don't have an HO1, though, if that's what you're asking, unless you count the brass one that isn't running. 7 is derailed. Oops, you're right. It's actually not a Mantua logger, believe it or not. This is brass. This is an old Northwest Shortline brass model. It's a little bit smaller than the Mantua. Where to get inspiration for your own layout or fictional railroad? What I did for this, at least, was find a few railroads I liked that were geographically very close to each other and sort of took elements from all of them and mushed them together. So this is like... This is kind of a mashup of like California Western, Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad, McCloud River Railroad, various Pacific Northwest logging railroads, and a little bit of White Pass. Like the loop going around the turntable arrangement is kind of inspired by the White Pass yard in Skagway. How many engines can you run at once? We tried that last stream. I think we had 4 at once, and it resulted in a massive accident. So I probably will not be trying that again. Yeah, it's kind of Pacific Northwest / California / that general area. With some liberties taken. And my limited scenery skills making it not look 100% like the real place, but... yeah, that is the loose interpretation. The drive-in isn't really based on any particular one. I just wanted to have a drive-in. This harbor scene is very much based on the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad around Tillamook Bay, particularly Rockaway Beach. And then, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, this yard area with the turntable is based on the White Pass Yard in Skagway. So it's a mishmash of places. And then the mountains in the background are also kind of vaguely Alaska. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Century of Steam. That's going to be awesome. Yeah, unfortunately, the Mantua one was kind of too far gone to save. It was falling apart pretty badly, as they tend to do. I've had a couple of those, and they've all been much less sturdily built than the other Mantua stuff I've had. However, the Walschaerts valve gear on the Prairie is from that Mantua 2662 logger. Does Mike have a mic for his mic to make noise into? Currently, the only running Mikado that I have is my O-Gauge Southern 4501. What model did I use for the station? That is a good question, and I do not know the answer. It's wooden, and I got it at a train show for $5. So I don't know. I don't know if it's scratch built. I don't know if it was a laser cut kit or something. It has a partial interior. You can see there's like a little figure in there. It kind of looks scratch built. There's like some cardboard in here. So I really don't know. But for $5, I couldn't turn it down. A mic? Well, I'm talking into one. This is the mic I'm using today. It is an ancient Blue Snowball from like probably 15 years ago. It isn't that great, but it's currently the only working microphone that I have that I could get to work with OBS. So there you go. I should have a yard office somewhere. Yeah, I have a mic and a mic. And downstairs we have a microwave, so we've really got all the bases covered. That might very well be the prototype Southern Pacific. I have no idea. Least favorite engine? I already told this story on this stream a little bit ago, but I bought a Broadway Limited Streamline K4 with Paragon 3 a few months back, and I got so frustrated with the Paragon 3 that I ended up selling it for less than what I paid, and I was just happy to get rid of it. That thing was absolutely cursed. It was a beautiful model, but it could not run right to save its life. Zoom in on the station again? Okay, hold on. There you go. Oh, and yes, if you're wondering, that is the sheriff from Cars parked next to it. I turned him around backwards, so you can't see the eyes, but... An engine out there that you want to get in the future that you haven't been able to get yet. I mean, there's always stuff I want to get. I'm trying to think, what else? I mean, I've gotten like probably 90% of the stuff that I've had on my wish list for years. Ooh, a little 040. I do have one of the Rivarossi Docksiders with a tender, but it's currently taken apart to have a different motor put in it. Oh, you just have Doc Hudson. That's awesome. Cars is, like... I'd just like to take a moment to appreciate how good of a movie the first Cars actually is. Like, I watched it not that long ago for the first time in several years, and I was like, dang, you know what? This actually holds up really well. And I just saw that they're re-releasing it in theaters in September, so I'm definitely going to go see it. I was too young to see it in theaters when it first came out. But I would love to, because it's actually always been one of my favorite movies. What 440 is my favorite? I mean, that changes. Yeah, the third Cars was really good, too. Second one was kind of a fever dream, but Cars 1 and 3 are really, really fantastic. Yeah, early Pixar was something else. Currently, my favorite 440 in my collection is probably number 7, just because it's the one I've done the most work to recently. but I do really like my custom Rivarossi one as well. The Rivarossi one is probably going to be the next video that comes out, and then the next video after that will probably be the Prairie build video. But beyond that, I haven't really planned that far ahead. I want to do an O-Gauge update. I want to do, oh geez, what else? I should probably do an update video on this layout once I get the turntable in. I will probably do a dedicated turntable video. Yeah, the old time 280 was pretty good. What was I saying? Cars 2. So here's the thing about Cars 2. Cars 2 is great if you go into it with the expectation of it being a feature-length episode of Mater's Tall Tales. If you expect it to be in the same vein as Cars 1 and 3, then you're obviously going to be disappointed because it's very much not. If you go into it as like, okay, Mater's Tall Tales was getting really popular in 2011, so they made a full-length version of it. Like, it's structured like a Mater's Tall Tale. The characters are depicted like a Mater's Tall Tale. Like, it even ends with Mater telling the story and everybody going, yeah, right, that didn't happen. And then the spy characters showing up. So it's literally just a feature-length Mater's Tall Tale. And I think, honestly, if they had marketed it as that, it would have been better received. So I can enjoy Cars 2 for what it is. And what it is a Mater's Tall Tale. It is not a sequel to the first Cars, at least not directly. It is Mater's Tall Tales the movie. And as Mater's Tall Tales the movie, it actually works pretty well. Yeah, I mean, people do kind of look at Cars 2 like it came after Cars 3 because Cars 3 felt like a sequel to Cars 1, and Cars 2 just kind of didn't. Yeah, how does ice cream even work in that world? That is, like, obviously, the Cars universe is full of, like, weird logical inconsistencies like that, and picking them apart is one of my favorite hobbies outside of model railroading. But, yeah, ice cream is, like, I think Honest Trailers talked about this. Like, do they milk the tractors? How does that work? I did see Alex Bale's video. I loved that idea. And it honestly, like, the idea that Mater is actually just a human with godlike powers who, like, turned the entire world into Cars-related stuff because he thought it would be funny, and his friend Lightning is actually just Owen Wilson. I was like, you know what? That actually somehow manages to answer every single existential question about the Cars universe. Like, literally, any question can be answered by, oh, why is it like this? Oh, because Mater thought it would be funny. That also explains weird things like in Cars 2, in the end credits, the Matterhorn is shown as being the Mater horn, and it's shaped like Mater's face, which literally doesn't make any sense unless Mater is a godlike being that created this entire world. So, yeah, I think Alex Bale has finally cracked the code of what Cars really is, and I love it. Oh yeah, the Toy Story. I forgot there was a train in Toy Story 3. Yeah, and that was actually a halfway decent looking 440. Like, a lot of times in movies, especially animated movies, the trains are kind of half-baked, but that one actually, it just looks basically like a Lionel General. An Old Man to a Mallet kit? See, normally I'm like, oh yeah, Old Man to a kits are fun, but the Mallets are just... I've never had good luck with them. But I mean, obviously, if you're willing to tinker a bit, more power to you. It just seems like there's a lot of plastic stuff that falls off very easily. The Bachmann Modern 440s, I love them. We can actually run mine right now if you want. Probably about time to switch out the train anyway. But yeah, the Bachmann Modern 440s are, I think, one of the most underrated HO models ever made. I absolutely love them. Yeah, these are legitimately one of my favorite HO models. Oh yeah, there was one in Planes Fire and Rescue as well. I believe that was based on a V&T Mogul. The only thing that bugs me about that is the valve gear motion is all wrong in some of the shots. Like, the shots from far away, you can tell that the Planes movies were done on a budget and in a hurry. Because, like, in the far away shots, the valve gear on the locomotive is the movement is totally mangled. But then in the close-up shots, it's fine. So it's clear that they knew what it was supposed to look like, and they knew what they wanted it to look like. They just didn't have time to do it properly, which is a shame. I don't remember what whistle this is, but I do love it. I just went through the Tsunami 2 whistles until I found one that I liked. Oh yeah, I forgot about the cursed Hornby Toy Story engine. Anytime British manufacturers try to make something American, it seems like it's always really half-baked. Yeah, this might be LNN. You know what? Let me put this in program mode, and I'll read back the CV and find out what it is. Program track. I think it's CV120 for the whistle. 34. So let me look it up on the Soundtracks website and find out what whistle number 34 is. Yeah, if you want the Toy Story engine, just get the Lionel one. The whole consist isn't accurate to the movie, but at least the locomotive is. $34. That is an L&N Passenger 3 chime, which I believe is a more or less accurate engine for Southern 4501 as well. Although 4501's had so many different whistles that at this point pretty much anything is an accurate whistle for 4501. NW Hooter, a Reading 6 chime on the Hudson. I do a Reading 6 chime personally. I really like those. And the Hooter's pretty distinctive. I feel like, you could maybe get away with a Hooter on like a 19th century 440, because a lot of those had single chimes. But for any like later engine, if it's going to have a Hooter, it's got to be Norfolk and Western. Love the fact that every engine you put on the track, they run. That's just because all the ones that don't work are hidden behind the camera. DCC whistle sound for NW Prototype 3 chimes. I think TCS Wow Sound might have one. Favorite movie? I have a few movies that sort of cycle out being my favorite. I would say top few are going to be Back to the Future, obviously. Mad Max Fury Road. Pretty much perfect movie in my opinion. Cars 1 and 3. WALL-E. What else? Galaxy Quest. I always say Galaxy Quest is the best Star Trek movie, and as a Trekkie, I agree. Although Wrath of Khan is pretty good. I don't know, what else do I rewatch a lot? It's like not objectively a good movie, but I kind of have this weird affection for the Nicolas Cage remake of Gone in 60 Seconds. Yeah, Galaxy Quest was amazing. That movie never gets old. I still gotta see Treasure Planet. That's been on my list of things to watch forever. I'm trying to think, what other movies do I like? I used to watch a lot of like space and sci-fi stuff. The thing about yeah, the old Gone in 60 Seconds definitely is good. Yeah, all of the Back to the Futures. I kind of count the whole Back to the Future trilogy as one movie. But of those, I think 3 is definitely the most underrated. Twister's good. I actually really like the modern remake, Twisters. I think it came out in 2024. I saw that on a plane. And I was like, okay, whatever. It'll be a dumb action movie. And I actually really enjoyed it. I'd like that a lot more than I expected to. So yeah, I would say Twisters is up there among my favorite movies. The 2024 one. Have a good night, Chessie. The Consist is... These are Roundhouse coaches. I've actually had these for I think, longer than any other piece of rolling stock I own. I got these for my 12th birthday. And I'm turning 29 in a few weeks, so you can calculate however many years that is. But there were originally 4 in this set. One of them I had to part out for parts for the other 3. But these have gone through a number of road names. I think they were Central Pacific originally. But they're still some of my favorite coaches. Yeah, baggage, coach, and observation. I've actually speaking of Twister, I've actually seen one of the screen used trucks from that at the Peterson Automotive Museum in LA. Yeah, they survived the PN. They've actually survived the PN, I think, multiple times. 2K Steam, the stream started at 9 p.m. I'm probably going to wrap it up within the next half hour. Yeah, Lima 5 wouldn't be bad. Yeah, Wild Wild West. Wild Wild West frustrates me so much because the premise, like, sci-fi spy, steampunk spy thriller in the Old West, sounds like it should be, like, the most awesome movie ever. But then it's just, you watch it and it's just like, oh god, the jokes are just horrible, and the characters are just very weirdly written, and like, it's just, they took the best possible premise and made the worst possible movie out of it. The only 2 redeeming things are, A, it has the William Mason in it, which I'm always happy to see, and B, I do think the giant spider is kind of entertaining in a silly, over-the-top way. But if you want to talk about 90s Will Smith movies, Men in Black, the first one, is infinitely superior. Men in Black actually has some good lines in it. Wild Wild West tried so hard to be Men in Black in the Wild West, and it just didn't work. Cab Forward Consist. I mean, I can flip an engine around backwards. Ooh, Rango! I forgot about Rango. Yeah, Rango's actually pretty good. My only real knock against Rango is I feel like they, as like having like a miniature Wild West town as the setting, they had the perfect opportunity to use model trains as part of the plot, and they didn't. But other than that, like, there's an imaginary version of Rango in my head where there's like a chase on a G-scale train, and I think that would have been awesome. But again, at that point, I'm basically just writing fan fiction. So like, as it stands on its own, yeah, Rango's decent. Steampunk is pretty cool. I really like the steampunk aesthetic. I feel like a lot of like ready-made like steampunk style products that are sold are really lazily designed. Like, they'll just take a normal thing and just slap a couple of gears on it and call it steampunk. But like, well done steampunk that's like actually like properly thought out alternate history stuff, I love. That is such a cool look. Actually, that reminds me of another movie that's really good. It's not strictly steampunk. It's more of kind of Art Deco diesel punk. But Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow it's kind of obscure. I don't think it was ever that big of a hit, although it had some pretty big names in it. It came out in the mid 2000s, I think. Yeah, the Hornby Steampunk range is exactly what I'm thinking of when I say lazily designed products. Yeah, Skycap and the World of Tomorrow. It's sort of like a sci-fi alternate history World War II era thing. It was fairly low budget. It was mostly shot on a green screen with CGI background, so it has kind of that mid 2000s cheesy CGI look to it. But it has some big name actors in it, and it does have a certain charm. And they did a helicarrier like 8 years before the Avengers movie did. They did a flying aircraft carrier. Favorite Back to the Future movie? I mean, obviously 1 is a classic, but honestly, I think 3 is really underrated. 3 is probably the one that I rewatch the most. What decade is it set in? So, since it's kind of a mix of stuff, I don't really pin it down to an exact decade, but I see it as like late 80s through early 2000s. It's a tourist railroad, so it's going to have a mix of eras no matter what. But like I try to limit the vehicles and stuff to like 90s or earlier. Basically, that California Western Pentrex video we were watching, that's the era that it's set in. And I just spilled tea on my pants, so that's fun. Indiana Jones. Okay, I hope people don't hate me for this, but I've never actually seen a full Indiana Jones movie. I've seen bits and pieces of them. I've just somehow never gotten around to actually like sitting down and watching an entire one. I know, I'm culturally illiterate. Yeah, the photographer with his foot halfway in the gauge. Yeah, I need to have like I need to have little drones flying around that can crash into the trains as they're going by. Any diesels on the roster? I do have a few diesels. Nothing that's currently operable in HO, unfortunately. Yeah, I do. I actually have 2 Athearn 280s. I have this custom one, which is my own road name. It has some custom stuff on it. The other one I have is the yellow Bumblebee one, which is currently doesn't have a decoder in it. You've never seen Back to the Future? Tristan. Seriously? Get Peter to show it to you. Twister and Twisters. Yeah, I was talking about this earlier. The original Twister's okay. I saw it after I saw the new one, and I was like, I guess I can see it's of the era. But the new one, Twisters, actually I really, really liked. I love the soundtrack. But like the movie itself is actually pretty darn good. It's that kind of like turn off your brain, fun, feel good action movie that you don't really see that much of anymore. They missed an opportunity tying to the original. I actually really like that Twisters is standalone because I watched it without having seen the original and I didn't feel like I was missing anything. So yeah, Twisters, definitely good. Yeah, BTTF is a classic. Like, I don't know how it's possible to not have seen BTTF at this point, but that is definitely something that should be remedied. Okay, something weird's happening with the audio. Hold on. Did that fix it? Oh, the music ended. I mean, I'm probably gonna... I love the mentality of everyone pretending to have watched Back to the Future until one person says they don't. I mean, I feel like most people have seen at least part of it. But it is, like, even ignoring its classic status, I feel like it's a good enough movie that most people who haven't seen it would still enjoy it if they watched it. Like, I feel like it's one of those, like, a lot of those, like, 80s quote-unquote cult classic movies really don't hold up very well. I feel like Back to the Future is one of the few that is, like, actually legitimately really good. Like, obviously there are some parts of it where you're like, well, that was a little questionable even for the time. But it's none of it's gratuitous. It's all in service of the plot. Like, yeah, this scene with, like, Marty waking up and meeting his mother and she's his own age is a bit weird. But it works. And it's, like, it's so well written and it's so well acted that, like, even the more ridiculous parts of it, you don't really question them. Yeah, it's timeless. That's the thing is, I feel like Back to the Future, like, even for, like, kind of the dated 80s stuff, like, it still works because, like, yes, obviously, the whole point of the movie is creating this noticeable contrast between different eras. Like, they go back to the 50s, and the guy in the diner is really racist, and they're like, yeah, because it's the 50s. Doesn't mean the movie's endorsing that, it's just a product of the time. So even, like, the stuff that was depicted as normal in the 80s that hasn't aged well, you're like, yeah, it's a product of the time. So Back to the Future, like, the first one especially, it's kind of impossible for it to age poorly because the entire point is that parts of it have aged poorly. Emperor of the North. Oh, that was an interesting one. I forgot about Emperor of the North. It's been a long time since I've seen that. Only thing I remember from it is that the trains were pretty cool. I don't remember the plot at all. Do you use the Just Plug system? No, all of my lighting is just manually wired up because I don't mind soldering stuff. The Just Plug system, I don't really have much experience with it. It seems kind of expensive for what it is, but it does seem pretty convenient. With the 262 of a green boiler jacket, I did think about doing that. I was looking at, like, Santa Maria Valley 205 and was like, that's actually a really sweet look, but I decided not to do it for two reasons. Number one, the 440 number 7 already has it, and I didn't want them all to look identical. And number two, with molded on piping, it is a huge pain to paint any boiler jacket color other than black, because then you have to, like, manually go in and paint all the little pipes, and it's really hard to make it look right. So, because that has molded on piping and I didn't want to redo all of that, I did it in black. But I do really like green boiler jackets. Ooh, Breakheart Pass. There's one I haven't thought about in a long, long time. That's another one like Emperor of the North where, like, I've seen it once. I don't really remember much except the trains. I don't really remember what the plot was. Because I was kind of only watching it for the trains. Have not seen Danger Lights. The Hornby smoke generator engines. I don't really have any experience or knowledge with Hornby stuff. The only experience I have with Hornby stuff was reviewing the Hogwarts Express set a few years back for BC Hobbies. What happened to the turntable? It is under construction because I'm building a whole new mechanism for it. So it's kind of hard to see, but I've cut out the entire turntable pit. Like, I've got this mechanism rigged up so I can turn it to any position and it will turn smoothly. I'm just still in the process of building the actual turntable that's going to go on top of it. Yeah, at Southern Pacific, I did do it with the IHC 462, and it was a royal pain. I am not eager to repeat that experience. I spent like an entire day with a tiny little brush painting that, and I still was never fully happy with how it looked. Oh, the Lionel movie? No, I haven't seen that. I saw like a YouTube video of someone reacting to it that didn't show most of it, and that was enough. I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't need to watch this. Like, there's a lot of terrible movies that are like objectively bad, but I like and I will happily rewatch. That one seemed like it was just a little bit too far over the edge. The IHC 462, no, I sold that to Ricardo. I don't know if he's still in the chat. He was earlier, but he has a couple of ex-Westport engines. The Northeast Outdoor Railway Festival. Yes, I'm really looking forward to that. It says on their website that they'll let you run stuff if you bring it, so I'm debating trying to get my G-Scale Back to the Future big hauler from the Back to the Future video. I'm debating trying to get that working in time to take it with me. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. I might just go and just film the trains that are there. But since it's a Father's Day thing, I might see if my dad wants to go with me. I should do a collection showcase video at some point. Northeast Outdoor Rail Fest. Let me double check. I think it's Father's Day weekend. Yeah, June 19th, 20th, and 21st in Palmer. So yeah, if anybody wants to see some G-Scale trains and you're in the area, that sounds like it's going to be a fun event. Have I painted brass steam engines? Sort of. I have painted over the original paint. I have not painted one from bare brass. Painting on metal directly is kind of an iffy affair to get the paint to stick right. So I usually try to avoid that if possible. Yeah, awesome, Tristan. Hopefully I'll see you there. Have I tried lighting any passenger cars? Not yet. I have put lighting in a caboose. So, the one Westport caboose, does have a bridge rectifier, capacitor, and some LEDs. Custom model I've wanted to tackle but haven't been able to yet. That's easy. California Western 45. I have the model. I have the brass Northwest Shortline model. I just haven't gotten a chance to actually dig into it and do all the custom stuff that I want to do to it yet. How many passenger cars? Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I've got, let's see, I've got the set of 3 that I'm running right now, and then I've got the set of 4 commuter coaches in the yard, and then the 5 Rio Grande Overtons behind them. So that's 12, I think. And then, I mean, I have others that are in various states of disassembly. I have my other set of Overtons. That's another 5, so that's 17. In G-Scale, I've got 6 Aristocraft coaches, so that's 23. I do technically have 4 N-Scale coaches, so that's 27. And then I have a ton of Owen 31s in various tacky novelty paint schemes. I don't even know how many of those I've got, so it's probably 30-ish. Unopened pack of Lionel tubular track. I appreciate the offer. My O-gauge layout's pretty much finished in terms of track, so I don't really need any more, but I might be able to use it under the Christmas tree or something. Red Dead, yeah, it's not too difficult. So, it can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. I made it fairly complicated because I wanted it to not flicker. So I wired it with, I made some pickups. I wired those to the input of a bridge rectifier, which takes input of any polarity and makes it all the same output polarity. And then after that, I put a capacitor so that it'll hold some charge when it briefly loses power. So, like, if you lift it off the track, it'll stay on for a few seconds. How many freight cars? Oh, gosh, I don't even know. I have a box that has, like, 40 freight cars in it that I bought at an antique store really cheap once. And then I have probably at least a dozen besides that in HO. Thoughts on Walther's kits? I generally like them. The lighthouse over here is a Walther's kit. That was fairly easy to build. If you want to get started on doing structure kits, that's probably a good place to start, and they can be made to look pretty good. Yeah, they're nothing particularly special or unusual, but they're good. They're nice quality. WNSC British engine win? Probably never. Doesn't really make sense to have a British engine on this layout. Oh yeah, I forgot about the Woodland Scenics N-Gauge layout kit. I am kind of tempted by that. Because the current N-Gauge layout that I've been working on, I'm not super happy with. Best and worst moment building the Westport layout. Worst moment... Oh geez, I don't know. Trying to remember like what disasters have happened along the course of building this. Honestly, nothing has really gone that wrong. Actually, no, I do know what the worst moment was. It was trying to assemble these stupid frickin' trees. I hate these trees. Like, they look okay now, but trying to get the foliage to not just fall off of them constantly was an absolute nightmare. Hey, welcome back, Peter. So yeah, assembling those Woodland Scenics tree kits was definitely the worst moment. Best, I don't know, I guess when I ran the first train. Flagship locomotive... Yeah, I guess I can... Well, that would be 12. I can run that again. We ran it with a freight train earlier. We can run it with the passenger train. And then I do want to wrap up the stream pretty soon. Number 12 of decorative stuff for 4th of July. I don't know if I'll bother, honestly. 4th of July is right next to my birthday, so I'll probably be otherwise occupied. Super trees are really nice. Peter used those on his layout, and they look great. Especially for, like, a fall foliage look. How many logging engines do I have? Oh, I don't know. It depends on what you consider a logging engine. I guess probably 2. Just the 26X2 and the Heisler. Do you miss the red oak? Yeah, I do sometimes. I mean, that's kind of why I designed my O-gauge layout the way I did. That's basically kind of a recreation of the red oak, just in a different scale. For paint, I use dedicated hobby paint. It does really make a difference. I use mostly Tamiya and Vallejo. For scenery, you can use any paint. Like, you can just go to Michael's and get the cheap artist acrylics for scenery. But on models where the paint really needs to, like, make a smooth finish and cover well, it's really worth it to get good quality hobby paint. Thanks, Gilded Rail. Yeah, I really like this combination of this engine and coaches. Peter, it does sound muffled, and that's because it's being recorded off the computer speaker, because I haven't figured out how to play music on the stream with the camera footage yet. Also, I'm using a different microphone because my regular camera mic isn't working for some reason, so it's going to sound even worse. So, apologies for the audio in this stream, everybody. I had a last-minute malfunction with the normal setup and had to improvise. I can probably just turn off the music, honestly. I doubt it's really helping. am probably going to wrap up the stream pretty soon because it's getting close to midnight here. Oh, you found a cheap PRR caboose on eBay. I keep forgetting. I keep meaning to film with that $5 Lionel caboose. I keep meaning to Back to the Future 3 that off the layout and film it in slow-mo. Any Rapido stuff? I've reviewed a lot of Rapido stuff for BC Hobbies. I don't think I own any. No, actually, that's not true. I do technically own a Rapido FA diesel, but it's currently taken apart because it came to me very cheap and very dilapidated, so it's pretty much... it's pretty much parts at this point. DLT Berkshire, I think I'm going to hold off on that N-scale layout because 3x6 is a bit bigger than I have room for. The one that I built before was 2x5, and even that's a little large. I might trim it down a little bit if I relay the track. So, appreciate the offer a lot, but I think I'm going to have to pass because I just don't have space here for a 3x6 layout. Hope you can find somebody to take it off your hands, though. Largest locomotive I have in HO. I talked about that earlier. It's a Bachmann 280 or a Mantua Atlantic. I have both, and they're pretty much exactly the same size. I don't really collect a lot of large engines because my layout has 18-inch radius curves, so it would be kind of pointless. Actually, technically, I might have a slightly larger one because I do have one of the old Bachmann 280s from the 80s, and I think that's a tiny bit longer than the regular modern one. But still not that big of an engine. Oh yeah, 12. Let's run 12 and then I'll wrap the stream up. Yeah, live modeling stream would be cool. I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that at some point. Maybe if I could find a project that I can finish in the time of a stream, like building a kit or something. The brass logger is probably longer, but it's smaller in pretty much every other dimension. 2K Steam, I sold the Bachmann Chinese loco. That one has gone on to its next home. But I have seen pictures fairly recently from the current owner, and it's doing well. 12 on a mixed train. I guess we could do that. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put the two rear coaches in the yard, and then I'll pick up the freight consist behind the combine. Actually, I'm going to cheat a little bit here and manually do the KD delayed coupler thing. Austin, no, I don't really follow any sports. Tristan, so the Bachmann SY has a weird quirk. And I figured this out with mine after it had gone through several decoders. Try loosening the screws on the bottom cover plate. Because the bottom cover plate fits too tightly from the factory and it squeezes the axles. And it puts a pretty heavy load on the motor. It adds a ton of rolling resistance, so it'll barely pull anything. And it has trouble running slowly. Loosen those screws a few turns, and I think you'll find it's massively improved. Yeah, Tristan, let me know how that goes. Because I think, at the very least, I know it worked well on mine. It made a huge difference. Alright, so there's our mixed train, and then I'll swap out 7 for 12. Am I part of a train club? Technically, no. I do visit the Providence Northern occasionally, because I have some friends that are part of it, but I've been in a few train clubs before, and it always kind of descends into petty drama and club politics eventually. Not going to name any specific clubs, because some of them have been fine, but it just doesn't really seem worth it to me. I'm glad they exist, though. For those who are willing to who have the patience to actually be an active member of a club, I'm glad they exist. Controls like a real steam engine. So, it is and it isn't. It's very simplified over a real steam engine. So basically, you have a throttle setting, and then you can set the locomotive to a certain amount of momentum. So, like, right now... Actually, you know what? Let's use the throttle with the knob, because it's easier to illustrate. So you select locomotive, then you've got reverse and forward, so we'll hit forward, and then you set the throttle to a certain speed, and then I have a fairly large amount of momentum set on this one. So it'll go up to that speed. And then if you want to stop, so if you want to accelerate slower, you can like gradually ease it up. But I usually just program in enough momentum that it accelerates at a more or less realistic pace if I just set the speed that I want. There are some decoders, like TCS WoW Sound decoders do have a brake feature, where you can press, I think, function 7, and every time you press it, it'll apply more brakes. But not all decoders have that. Ooh, future PN president. You got my vote, Tristan. Yes, Brock, this is HO scale. Please ignore the under construction turntable area. The rest of the layout's finished, but I'm rebuilding the turntable at the moment. Ooh, that'd be cool, and stand designed to work with steam engine. One thing I would really like to see is something like, I don't know if anybody's heard of the Proto Throttle. It's like basically a miniature handheld version of a diesel locomotive control stand that works with models. It'd be cool to see something like that for Steam. Austin, what music do you... I'll be able to answer the question if there was a bit more to that sentence. As it is, I'm not sure I quite understand what you're asking. I have looked at wireless DCC controllers, but my layout's small enough that it doesn't really seem worth the money. Like, I'm standing way over here at my desk, and the cord is plenty long enough. Oh, what music do I like? I like a pretty wide variety of stuff, honestly. Like, um, for like some of it's mainstream stuff, some of it's more obscure. Like my my driving playlist has like everything from Taylor Swift to AC/DC to various country artists, various '80s pop and rock stuff. Um, some of the more obscure synthwave stuff I really like. One of my favorite bands is called The Midnight. They're a synthwave band that does like kind of retro '80s ish, but also kind of not. I do listen to a lot of country. I know that's not everybody's cup of tea. I like a lot of like '80s and '90s folk music. I feel like I can usually like find something that I like in pretty much any genre. I don't really listen to a lot of like rap or heavy metal beyond like AC/DC level stuff. Um, like anything that's like really harsh and intense doesn't usually really vibe with me that much, but yeah, my music taste is pretty varied. Yeah, I like John Denver. He's all right. '80s did have a lot of great music. I do like The Who. Cody Johnson's okay. I like some country artists better than others. I haven't really found any Cody Johnson songs that are like catchy enough to get stuck in my head, but he does have a few that are decent that I like. '60s and '70s classic rock has some good stuff. Let me see what my recently played stuff looks like. I've been listening to a lot of Queen lately. I mean, they're like kind of the ultimate '70s and '80s band. Let's see. AC/DC, Ella Langley. Been listening to Ella Langley a lot lately. Luke Combs, Merle Haggard. Avril Lavigne. Always had a soft spot for Avril Lavigne. Brooks and Dunn. Elton John, Johnny Cash. Huey Lewis and the News. All right, have a good one, Austin. Colin, I'm scratch building one. I had an Atlas one in here earlier and didn't really like it that much. Oh yeah, we could put the Combine in the back. Brock, I have bought steamers from all over the place. I find them at train shows. I find them on eBay. Yeah, I mean that's fair, Tristan. Country's definitely not for everybody. I feel like you kind of had to grow up with it to develop the taste for it. It's like pineapple on pizza. People either love it or they hate it. And in both cases, I love it. Film soundtracks, yeah, I've actually listened to a lot of, like, I'll just put on a film soundtrack in the background. I used to listen to them while I was driving. It made everything feel very epic. All right, I'll throw the Combine on the back and do a couple laps, and then I am going to wrap up the stream because it's almost midnight. I'm just going to do this manually. The siding, I honestly don't use that much because the spot right here in front of the station where the fence ends, the fence gets a little too close to the track, so a lot of times when I take a train through there, it'll hit the fence, which is really annoying. So rather than moving the fence like I should do, I just don't use that track because I'm that lazy. Card full. What? Okay, that's weird. I didn't know it was even recording on the card. What happens if I take the card out? Oh, it just says no card. Okay. Well, I guess that's my signal to wrap up the stream, folks. So, adding a decoder to Rivarossi, yeah, it's kind of a whole adventure. You kind of got to custom tailor the installation to each one. And you usually do want to replace the motor, because the old motors don't play very nice with DCC. Anyway, yeah, thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you for commenting. Pacific Productions, you can rewind the stream and watch it from the beginning if you want. Yeah, I think my camera is telling me that it's time to end. So, good night, everyone. Cheers. I will see you next week, hopefully with a functioning turntable. Jared, I'll check Discord after the stream's over. Cheers, everyone. Good night. Eat your vegetables. Drive safe. And please don't spam the same message repeatedly in the chat.